Gayelynn McKinney, the last drummer with Aretha Franklin. Interview by Dr. Joan Cartwright. Gayelynn, what brought you to music as a child? Both of my parents were musicians. My mother, Gwen Shepherd McKinney, was a vocalist and pianist. My father, Harold McKinney, was a pianist. I was born in it. I grew up listening to music my entire life. I grew up waking up to it, going to bed to it. So honestly, I don't know what else I would have done. There are some interests I had, but music was a strong influence in my life. How did you come to the drums? Well, that is a mystery. My mother said I was very busy even when she was pregnant with me. I tended to move around a lot. I guess I was born to do it. When I was 2 years old, I would beat on the furniture and even at the table with my knife and fork. I think that's when my mother brought me a drum kit. She thought she's going to beat on something else besides my furniture. When I was 2 years old, and that began my journey. What about other instruments? When I started school, we had music from kindergarten, elementary, to high school. It is sad that music is missing, especially in inner city schools these days. I started like most of my classmates did, on the recorder. Then the recorder turned into a clarinet. By the time I got to elementary school, eventually that clarinet turned into a saxophone. Clarinet was cool. I didn't dislike the clarinet. It just wasn't my favorite thing to play. So one day, when I was looking at my music folder, I saw this shiny gold instrument that attracted my attention. Immediately, it was a saxophone. One of my dad's friends let me borrow his tenor saxophone. I quickly realized that it was too big for me at that time, so I switched over to alto. When I got to fourth grade, my father gifted me an alto saxophone. I played alto saxophone from fourth grade to 12th grade in the concert and the marching band. So my other instrument is saxophone. Also, I play piano. Not enough to go out and gig and do shows, but enough to compose music. Did you study music theory in school or privately? I went to Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, and that's where I learned a lot about music theory and jazz theory. So yes, I did get my Bachelor of Music degree at Oakland University. Do you compose, perform, and record your own music? Yes, I do. Right now I have a CD out with new arrangements I did of my father's music. It's called McKinfolk, The New Beginning, and it was released a couple of months ago. I do have a CD of my own music called It's About Time. That came out in 2006, and I will be recording a new project of my music in the fall. How many songs have you composed? I was just sitting down today to decide which of my compositions I would record on the new project. Possibly 40 songs I've composed. Some of them have been recorded with the group Straight Ahead, some on my solo project, and some have not been recorded yet. By the time I get done with the new stuff coming into my mind, I will have composed about 100 songs. Do you have a publishing company with ASCAP or BMI? Yes, it's called Beat 6 Music. The X is there because when I get my logo together, I intend to make that X to stick. Do you have a songbook? No, I don't have a songbook yet. I encourage all of our members to get their music in a songbook. That's rare. The only women I know with a songbook are Carole King, Basha, Carly Simon, Stevie Nicks, and I have a songbook. I think Carmen Lundy put out a songbook. Roberta Flack was working on one, but I haven't heard that it was published yet. Hopefully she's okay because I heard she wasn't doing too good. What challenges have you faced in the male-dominated music industry and on a male-dominated instrument? Well, back in the day, it was very difficult to be a girl playing the drums. People were saying that the drums was an instrument only to be played by boys. I didn't get so much flack from my dad's peers. They were supportive. but it was my own peers that would scoff at me playing drums as a female. I will say that one of the reasons why I kept playing was Terry Lynn Carrington. My father came home from New York one time, and he was all excited about the fact that he had seen another girl playing the drums, and that little girl was Terry Lynn Carrington. He told me about her, and that gave me all the inspiration I needed to keep playing drums. I told Terry Lynn this story too. Dad telling me about Terry changed my decision to play drums instead of sticking to the saxophone. Nowadays, I would say that we are moving forward, and there's a whole lot more women that play drums. Still not as many as men, but there are some out there that are playing. But unfortunately, there is still some sexism going on. For years, I've wondered why I never got calls for some of the bigger gigs. People would come to town, and they would always call these male drummers. And they were good drummers, don't get me wrong. They were excellent drummers. But I used to wonder, how come I don't get these calls? I got a lot of calls for local and little stuff. I started to think maybe I'm not as good of a drummer as I thought I was. Maybe my skills are not up to par. A friend of mine confided in me, and he didn't realize that he was telling me something. He said, the reason why I didn't get a lot of those calls was because I was a female. I don't know why these guys won't get you to do stuff. You can play. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the guys would be like, oh, no, I don't want to get her. And I said, what? These were people who I knew and thought they were friends of mine. I found out that they really had some issues about me being a woman playing the drum. I'm not going to lie. That hurt my feelings. That was really surprising to me. I found out that some of the gigs that came through I didn't get because of being a woman, not because I lacked skill. My friend who has been giving me wonderful opportunities said, I like you because you can play. And I said, thank you. That's wonderful to hear. And I appreciate the fact that that's why you are hiring me. Yeah, so there's still a lot of that happening in this male-dominated industry, especially jazz. Very male-dominated. So I just can't focus on that. I just have to keep pushing on and making my way through. That's all I can do. Right, because that will tear you down. Did your personal relationships conflict with your career? Do you have children? For years, I did not have children because I was pursuing a music career. I figured children would not be advantageous for me to pursue a music career. I love kids. I love having them around me. I like hanging out with young people. But I knew that in order to pursue a music career, I would not be able to have children. There are people that can do both, and people that have done both. But for me, I didn't want to be a touring musician and have to leave my child all the time. So I did not have any on my own. It wasn't until about 8 years ago that I ended up being a parent to an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old who are now 16 and 22. But it's not like raising them from a baby. They were already halfway there, so it wasn't the same. Once I became a parent, it did not interfere with me being a working musician. Of course, you have to have a partner that is willing to help in that area. So, you're married now? Yes. Tell me about your experiences with Straight Ahead. We came out at a time that was really unique for a female band to be together. There weren't many all-female bands back then. There had been groups before us, like the group Alive, an all-female band that came out in the 70s from California. Everybody knows the Sweethearts of Rhythm from the 40s. But in the 90s, I don't know of any that were out in the forefront like we were. It was an exciting experience. We got signed to Atlantic Records, and we made 3 CDs on Atlantic Records. It was interesting because sometimes we would be on the road, and I can tell that some of the sound guys were looking at us sarcastically like, girls, what do they get ready to do? Then after the show was over, they would treat us with great respect. The experience with Straight Ahead was great. We had a great camaraderie. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary with Regina Carter. It was amazing. Nothing changed. We went right back to doing what we had been doing 25 years ago, which was doing great collaborations. So it has been a wonderful journey with Straight Ahead, and we're still going strong. We are getting ready to do a concert in Australia at the beginning of November, so we haven't stopped performing together yet. Has the personnel changed? The rhythm section is the same. The founding members, Marion Hayden, Alina Moore, and I, we are the same. In the front line, we have a guy in the band now, Yancey, who's been playing with us for about 10 years. Then we have Kimberly Wright on vocals, who's been singing with us for about 15 years. We do different configurations, but Kim and Yancey we perform the most with. However, from time to time, we may do different front lines. We may have a trumpeter, Ingrid Racine, or we may have a vocalist and just be instrumental. Most of the concerts we've done in the last 10 years has involved Yancey and Kimberly on the front line. Do you mostly do straight ahead music or do you do original music? We do some of everything these days. I think that's why we've stayed viable because we've done everything from funk, contemporary jazz, traditional, Latin, and originals. We do some of everything. We've been a very versatile band over the years. How did you come to perform with the late, great Aretha Franklin, and what was that experience like for you? Wow! That was amazing. That happened when a friend of mine, Ralphie Armstrong, reconnected me with her after I did a performance with her in 2004. He told her that I would be able to handle it. I don't think Aretha knew I could handle playing R&B because when I played with her in 2004, I played her jazz set. So I was driving on my way somewhere and my phone rang. It came up no name, and I usually don't answer those calls. So I answered it, and she said, "Gayelynn?" And I said, "Yes." She sounded like my mother. She said, "This is Aretha." I'm thinking, who? So I was quiet, and she said, "This is Aretha Franklin." I said, "Let me pull over." So I found the quickest way to pull off the road. I said, "Hi, how you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm okay. Listen, I want you to learn these songs, and we're going to have rehearsal in a week or so. So I want you to get these songs and learn them, and I want you to go on the road with me." I said, "Wow, okay." So there began my journey in April 2016, and I played with her up until her last performance for the Elton John AIDS Foundation. That was a doozy because President Clinton and Hillary, President Obama and Michelle were there. It was quite the affair. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet any of them because they whisked us away backstage after the performance, but just to see them out there was thrilling for me. Hopefully, I'll get to meet President Obama and Michelle one day, but that was her last performance. The journey with her and some of the things I got to do with her was fascinating, and I got to play Radio City Music Hall with her for the tribute to Clive Davis at the Tribeca Film Festival, where I got to meet Whoopi Goldberg, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Clive Davis. So some of the experience that I had with her and being able to tour with her, I never had before. Even the experience of playing for thousands of people that admired her, she was still packing theaters and stadiums. I mean, packing them. I met a couple of guys that came from Australia to see her because she doesn't fly. They said she doesn't fly, so we might not get another chance to see her. That's the phenomenon that she carried with her, with people coming to see her from Australia and other countries. One performance she did I'll never forget. It was very personal. When she poured her heart out and expressed what she had been going through with her health and paying tribute to God, thanking God for getting her this far. I tell you, there wasn't a dry eye. The band, even though the fellas were trying to hide it, we all had a tear rolling down from our eyes. The audience was just as engaged. You could see people in the audience wiping their eyes. That was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. That many people involved in her performance and her feelings. Just the love that people had for her was profound. It's an experience that I will never forget. That's for sure. Were there any other women in her band? Yes. She had her cousin Brenda as a background vocalist. Sometimes she had all women as background vocalists. Sometimes she had all women and a guy. She had different sets. She had a Detroit, Chicago, and a New York crew of background vocalists. The New York crew's leader was a guy named Fonzie, who was a very close friend to Luther Vandross. Brenda was always a part of it. She had a woman on tambourine. That's all she did, play tambourine. It added a nice flavor, a spice to the music. She had two different ladies that played tambourine. So those ladies were females. She would never travel with the horns. She would always pick up horns in the city where she was playing it. A couple of times I ran into a couple of female horn players that I knew. When we did Chicago, a friend of mine that played saxophone was in that band. So occasionally there would be some women in her band. However, seeing women in her band consistently was rare. It was mostly male instrumentalists. What are your future plans now that Miss Franklin has transitioned? Right now, I'm focusing on my project that I released called McKinfolk, The New Beginning. It was released on Detroit Music Factory label. So my focus for 2019 is to work and tour that project. What record label are you with? Do you feel you get enough recognition and support as much as they are giving the men on that label? I am with Detroit Music Factory, which is a division of Mack Avenue Records. I cannot really speak as to whether or not they are giving the men more support than they are giving me. Another friend of mine in the music business told me that if you're a vocalist, they treat you a little differently than if you're an instrumentalist. They do not push women instrumentalists the way they push a vocalist or a male instrumentalist. I don't know if that's true. So, I'm not going to say that it's true. I had another friend put out a record last year, and I saw ads for his record in magazines. I don't know if he paid for that himself or if the label paid for it. He could have possibly paid for those ads himself. I know when I've tried to get ads for my label, they told me that magazine ads don't really help record sales, and it's not that important to do that. I know differently because it helps get the artist out there, which creates work for the artist to help sell the record. If I had my own money to put ads in Downbeat, Jazzes, and others myself, I would. The label gave me radio promotion, which is good. And I assume that they pushed it as hard as they could. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate what they have done to help promote my CD, but there are so many factors involved just to get a CD noticed. That's why it's hard for musicians to do it by themselves. Do you have room to negotiate? Because one of the 6 keys that I found that women musicians need to know how to use: branding, marketing, teamwork, networking, negotiation, and accounting. Those 6 skills most women musicians do not know how to use. That's why we have WIJSF, an organization to be a promotion engine. People are always saying, "Where are you performing?" That's not important. If you don't know where the person is performing, what good is it? That's why we concentrate on Musicwoman Radio, Musicwoman Magazine, and the WIJSF newsletter to get people to know about the musical members. What advice would you give a young woman coming into the industry? The first thing I would tell her is to really be good at your craft. Align yourself with people that can further your career. It is very true. It's not what you know, but who you know in this business. I used to wonder what that meant when I was younger. Now I really understand. Get a team together of people who want to help you and see you succeed. Find people who will help you do what it takes to get yourself out there and to promote yourself. Try to find somebody that will help you book gigs. Get a booking agent if you can, or at least somebody who will hustle for you to help you get gigs. Someone who doesn't mind being on the phone 24/7. If you can do all of this without having to come out of your pocket to spend a whole lot of money right away, that's good. If you can find friends who will work with you and be there for you until you're getting paid, well, then that's a plus. But it's hard because everybody wants money for their time and energy, which is understandable. But if you can find people who will support you, knowing that you don't have a lot of money to work with, and help you get to the point where you're making good money, then that's who you need on your team. Get your bio together, document everything you're doing, shows, concert, build your resume. Social media does a great deal. It does help a great deal. You can go live at your performances. Make sure your social network is big so that people can see what you're doing. A lot of promoters and people looking for talent look at your numbers on social media. So if you don't have a lot of numbers, they think that you don't have a lot of people who will come to your shows. So try to build that up as much as you can. If you have somebody that can help you with that, try to keep your internet presence updated or just do it yourself. It's really hard because you're trying to work on your craft, do the business part, and just deal with everyday life. Know the music avenue and the business avenue. You have to know both to succeed. I am in the Musicians Union. It's good to join the Musicians Union. They will protect you and make sure you get what you're supposed to be paid in certain situations. A lot of my friends get jobs in the theater, and a lot of them are union houses. So being in the union helps too. Gayelynn endorses Bosphorus cymbals, Vic Firth drumsticks, and pearl drums.